Hello, everybody. How goes it? Welcome to Society at 322. We got a special little episode today. I'm pumped. But before we get really into it, Richie Kwan's already distracting me back there. We've got coaches. My name is Jesse Faubert, as you know.
I'm Luis.
We've got Katie McKinley back running our social. You can say hi to her. Then you can say hi to Richie Kwan. And then if we could, dive into it.
Hello.
Coaches, introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm
S'il vous plaît.
Jacob Bigham, and I coach with JP and Jesse over at Southcam, a few blocks away here.
We're downtown. Yeah, I'm JP Lancaster. Usually here talking music, but
Yeah, switching it
we're
up.
flipping the script here. Yeah. We all coach at Southcam Secondary.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome. You guys
Yeah.
wear different hats, I know. Before we start,
We did wear different hats. Yeah.
before we start, I want to acknowledge that Common Sound is our sponsor of the day. So
Common Sound is a sponsor.
shout out to Common Sound.
Oh, yeah. And to that, Common Sound has put up this Monty Creek piece of little bubbly here for a giveaway. And in order to get in the mix on this bubbly, you need to comment, just a little brief comment about one of the coaches that really affected your life in a positive, or I guess a negative way, growing up. And if no coach ever made any kind of impact on you, tag a friend that might enjoy this sweet little bubbly on a nice summer day, finally summer days around here. All you got to do is tag a friend, and you'll be entered into the draw. Thanks, Common Sound.
Thanks, Common Sound. Well, start with this. I guess I'll start with a couple questions for you guys. I would like to know, how did you get on coaching? Where does it start? Where was it? Right in high school? Was it what kind of level of football did you start coaching? What's your journey?
What's
Yeah.
your journey? Tell us while I make a quick adjustment.
I'm pretty new to coaching, I think, but JP, that was my first entire football season coaching at the high school level. I just finished playing, I guess, only 3 football seasons ago. But I grew up here, played at Norcam. That's where I had like the coach that really affected me and made me want to do this, and Todd Graham. And then played up here 2 years for the Broncos, and then went down to California and really had some coaches there that were like truly just the kind of human beings that as a young man, or at least who I was like, dude, it'd be sweet to be that guy. Like, they were just cool people, did cool things, had cool lives. And yeah, graduated college, moved back home, and actually had a Dino Bernardo, who used to do lots of stuff with the Broncos and all over Kamloops. He said that JP needed some help, and went out there, and I don't think I've missed anything since.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah, I can't remember how that came together. I think Derek Waldy, who was a player, recommended you as well, and yeah, it's kind of all blurred together. It's weird to think it's just a year, but
Yeah,
here we
it's
are.
been a lot.
I didn't know that Dino was in the mix in that whole situation as
Yeah,
well.
well, because when I
Shout out
first
to
moved
Dino.
back, shout out Dino. When I first moved back, I was wanted to help it with the Broncos, but they weren't kind of going in a direction where I wasn't jiving with where I wanted to be with football, or especially something that takes that kind of time investment like coaching football does. So, yeah, that seemed like a lot better, and it's where I want to be in life, moving into teaching and stuff. So it's fun to work with those young men.
Nice. That's
Young
cool.
man, that's much different than how I call them.
What about you, JP?
Same sort of deal, and I think that's probably like the shared story for anyone that gets back into it. Is just like a hugely positive experience, and wanting to give back. So Jesse and myself, I graduated from John Peterson, and Jesse, you're up there to grade 10, I think, maybe, or somewhere thereabouts, and then before the merger to Southcam. But same sort of deal. We had a really great group of coaches there at that time. And then kind of a similar story to Jacob. I was fortunate. I played 7 years of football post-secondary, played junior in Kelowna for the Okanagan Sun. And then I went and played for UBC. And then I went into the teaching program immediately afterwards. So my last playing season was 2008. I started the teacher program in 2009, and then specifically asked to be placed at a football school. So I ended up at Hugh Boyd Secondary in Richmond, where I did my practicum. And my sponsor teacher was the head coach of the program. His name was Bruce Haddo. It was two brothers who were, Bruce and Bill Haddo, who were coaching. So kind of right away, I was just like fully immersed. And then I went all in. I can't remember off the top of my head how long. You do a practicum in the fall, so that worked out really well. And so I was coaching the grade 8 team, which was, I think I was running the defense. But then I'd be an assistant with the JV team, and then I would like hold a clipboard or fill water bottles with the senior team. But so it was kind of like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday games, I'm just fully immersed in it from there.
That's dope. Having a partner that's going through the educational program system right now, it's cool that you are doing your practicum and still being able to coach football as well. Like that's a next level to just learning how to teach as a whole.
For sure, yeah. Well, and I think like it made. Coaching, like I don't know if you're experiencing this, coaching and teaching I think are very much the same skill set. So I felt incredibly confident. I think as I recall, the first practicum you just kind of observed. So I'd be in the classroom watching the teacher, but then I would go out and coach football. So when it came to actually working in the classroom for the first time, like I felt very much at ease with that. And then I also knew pretty much like the entire like male population from working with the grade 8 JV and the senior team. Like I knew all the kids, so they had that rapport with them, and it was just like it was such a breeze and a good experience that way. But then I think also the big thing was having strong mentorship. So like and having the head football coach be my sponsor teacher.
No doubt.
So we'd kind of debrief on a lesson I would do, and then
Was that just luck of chance or?
Like they were accommodating in that I wanted to go to a football school, and I was living kind of right by where VGH is. Yeah. So Hugh Boyd wasn't that far from there. I think it was luck of the draw that I ended up with him, but he was a great guy, and both as like a teacher mentor and a coach mentor. And at that time, we were really strong kind of at all levels. So, I mean, my first year, we went to the provincial final for the grade 8 team, lost by a touchdown.
Sick.
Yeah, and I mean, and we're in the mix, like we're competitive throughout. And so I did 2 seasons at Hugh Boyd, and so that took a lot. Like, I think just having that transition, it's probably like any situation where like when you go in and there's structure in place and you're not expected, like you have like a very defined role. I found it was like there's just no pressure really of like all the admin stuff and all the operation stuff. You can kind of just come in, slot in, do your thing. And it was hugely positive in that regard.
Cool.
What about you, Jesse? Because you're not a teacher, and you're
I am certainly not a teacher.
You're outside of that realm.
No, I'm just there for the good times and the after parties is when I'm there. High school after parties, I'm still living in that world. No, actually, I mean, it was cool because when JP was coming back to Kamloops, he asked me to be a part of, like, let's get together. You want to do this? And I said, of course, I'm always down for a ride. It's natural when you go through football and you're a football guy. It's really easy to go back to football. And high school is, especially at the level that we played at, it's slower and it's easier just to like step back in and say you can identify pretty quickly what you need to adjust. And I mean, with high school though, it's really character driven. Like a lot of I think is character development. You're trying to get to biomechanics and all that shit, but it's not necessarily the first thing in the stepping stone. So yeah, when he said let's do it, I said let's party, and here we are.
Yeah, you guys had like really good season from what I've experienced. I've enjoyed going to your guys' game.
You think that? Yeah.
Your style of coaching, it's really different to what I was used to. I played football for like 10 years when I was younger. It was a lot more abusive than what it is up here going from Mexico, and then like my first
his experience was abusive, not ours.
No, not yours. No, my experience back home, like coaches were a lot more abusive with us. I remember my first coach was the team I was playing was the Chiefs, like the Spanish word of Chiefs, but it was pretty much that. And the coach had the sword of the Chiefs, which was a piece of wood with a little, like the point of a nail coming out. So if you were the slowest one, he would just smack you in the ass. At the end of that training, you would just. So it is really different. It was cool to see that you guys obviously are. My parents didn't want me playing because of that.
I mean, that's what you're like 10 years ago. Yeah, like I don't know, Jacob, you probably have some stories like being in the States and in the thick of it. I mean, I can definitely, my experience as a player was like a lot of verbal abuse, I would say.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I started playing in the 90s, so it was definitely a different thing back then. Yeah, I'm thinking even like at UBC, like like you get chewed out in film, but you'd get like personally insulted as well along with that, and like maybe to do with your sexual orientation. So I think it's like it's not that far in the past that
it used to be like that.
Yeah, I think it's shifted really quickly, and it's just like reflects the changing world too. Like there's no arena or very few left where that exists, just because of the way society's gone. It totally flipped there pretty quickly, because even me leaving high school in 2010, the way I was coached, then coming back and like being like, well, we just did this 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So really, in the grand scheme of things, not that long.
And I remember a situation, Jesse and I, first year when we were doing the junior team, and I think we, or at least I don't know myself, like I think we parted more of like of that era of coaching, and I think like I remember we were going in the provincial playoffs, and we made them do bowl in the ring or bowl in the middle, whatever it was called, which is like kind of an old school one where like you have like one guy in the middle and you're picking random, like it's just basically like a collision with no ball. It's like senseless.
The famous Friday Night Lights scene on the movie.
Right.
Yeah, they're playing that.
Yeah, exactly. But then we lost. One of the kids got concussed in like a corner. Like so we were down like a starter going into this playoff game, and I remember having that as an experience of like maybe that's not necessarily the best way to do it.
Yeah, but you know, there's been this switch. Some for better, some make sense. Like especially on the mental side, like you can't talk the same way that we were talked to. I mean, fear is still like it can be good, but we've had to find different ways of going about it.
Yes.
But there was one time when we were running them, and we had ran them up like 5 flights of stairs. We used to do 20 to 30 practice. Like it was like ridiculous. And cardio isn't one of those things. It's like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. But I remember us getting in trouble and saying like, the parents aren't really going to like this, guys. And we're like, they're just running. Like this is cardio. Like, but that was the change in the program. Like everything shifted, where it's like, we're not taking any kind of liability. The parents own everything. But it was very in a protection way. I get the mental and especially the physical abuse. You just can't do that this day and age.
Yeah, exactly.
But the cardio was one of the surprises. Like, wow, we really have to like remind everyone that cardio is important in this sport.
Yeah, and that was kind of my take. Like, I think that's like a good example of where it was to where it is now. Like I think we work the kids hard and they respond to that. But yeah, when we first came in, this is going on 6 years ago. That like protective bubble of like, oh, the parents will get mad, and where now it's like, well, no, like they're choosing to be here.
Yeah.
And we need to be at a certain level for Yeah, I definitely do recall that.
Well, it's even like going to we can't even do 2-a-days. We couldn't do anything like that. But like going down to California, it's 130, like what, it'd be 45 degrees Celsius, 40 degrees Celsius. And I remember leaving those sessions and I could see black and white, and I was like, oh, this isn't good. Like, and now like how much of that is changed, and it's changed here a lot. But then it's like, if you want to play this sport, you have to be in that level of shape, or else your little Tommy's going to get killed.
And that's the thing, the hurt. That was a big hurdle for us to get over. It's like, no, the kids have to be in shape so they don't get hurt. Because if they're not in shape, they're going to get it. Like, we almost promised.
Exactly.
Like, shit's going to go down.
Plus, I can just imagine with not having 60, 70 kids in a team, you guys are using both a lot of your players in the defense and the offense, which, like having that physical ability to do things, it's so important, which, it's pushing the kids to that level.
I don't think we had any, thinking back this past year, I don't think we had any major injuries that I can really recall. Like, guys are going to get banged up and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think like their physical shape isn't a liability to them.
It's not until we had like a couple, minor things, nothing really like devastating that's scarring anybody for life. But that speaks at it. Like the whole, now you see it everywhere on all social media. You can follow every pro athlete, see how they train and stuff. So that has to start to rub off on some level of these kids, especially grades like 10, 11, 12 coming up, of like they put in a lot more effort in the off season just because they're seeing their stars doing it. There's no six pack in the locker hacking a dart while you're getting your post game interview on national TV anymore. So kids are like, wow, look at how hard these guys are working. Like maybe I need to be there.
I need to be jacked like Jacob and maybe get some tattoos. That's what we need.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I think that's a good point. Like they can see so much behind the scenes, and like the proof is like at any level. But like I don't know, like digging through the tapes, like the old VHS tapes in our football room, and like I found games from when I was playing, and it's like it's off. Like compared to the quality of the game now, it's so much slower. Like it's like anything, right? Even like, you know, through COVID, you're seeing all the classic games, and like 90s NHL is a great example where I watched that and like I feel I could play in the league back then. Like if I had a DeLorean, it's
definitely.
so slow, like, unskilled. You know, and so everything I think. I mean, basketball is the same thing. You look at where guys are shooting threes from now, which would have been like
stupid.
Yeah,
Right.
but because they train for it, and that's a great example. Watching like basketball is such a finesse, skill-driven sport. Like even at the high school level, right? Like the skill set is way more advanced than just kind of feeding it down to your big man and like grinding away down there. Like a lot of kids can shoot now because they watch
And they want to shoot.
Yeah.
And they
I'd
wanna
rather
shoot.
not
They
be in
want
the
to
post. I'd rather just chuck it.
No, and that's the thing. Like you'll watch kind of like the prototypical, you know, big men. Like, but they're working their 3-point shot, and they can dribble, and but probably because they watch Steph Curry or you know, like.
Or they had Kelly Olynyk coming through the
Sure.
gears.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Word. So tell us, what's a moment when you were being coached? I know we got to go way back for you guys. But, when you were being coached, was there a moment that stood out to you that was like, man, like retroactively, not necessarily at that moment where you're like, something's happening here, but can you look back and think of a moment where you know your character was defined or something happened, or you're just like, man, this guy's a fucking psychopath?
Yeah, I got one that like I think about often. Just in it was when I had left Butte College in California. I was playing in Colorado at Fort Lewis in the NCAA, and this is where like these coaches, this is their livelihood. They do this for a living. This is how they feed their families, and I understand that pressure comes out. But I signed there because of the coaching staff that was there. Almost a couple weeks after I had been there, the coach that I wanted to play for left. And the guy, a coach who had recruited me to another college, came in. And just the way he went about things, he was constantly just screaming, yelling, trying to get across to players in that regard. And I just think, like, I personally have never responded well to that. Like, I like to, how I realize now, but thinking as, like, growing into a young adult now and becoming more and more mature, like, all the time, really quickly, and seeing these things, I look back and I'm like, that guy, we were constantly, like, we never could get over that hump to be a good football team. And it was, at some point, you got to point the finger back at who is leading that charge. If you continually come with this yelling, I think what had happened, like, this guy had totally forgot that not only is he's in his 30s, but he's raising guys from 18 to 24 years old. These are young adults, and he had totally forgot that not only is he a football coach, but he's a mentor to these young men. Yeah. And I think that's where he just lost the backing of and he said some things that I can't even repeat, which is getting, like, furious, like, to me. And I was like, I was so good at this where I was before. Like, what happened? Right. I was ready to, like, I'm ready to move on. Like, I want to go to the CFL. That's my goal here. Right. Just totally just felt like I was just hitting my head against the wall every day of practice with him, just getting tore down in ways where it was like, dude, that wasn't even about football. Like, it was personal. Like, and I'm just like, so moving into, like, coaching, it's like I want to be a good coach, like, fundamentally, skill wise, teach them what to do on the field, in the weight room. But I want them to be, like, when they leave us, be good humans and have matured and grown and maybe taken a life lesson or two. Yeah. And I guess, like, out of every bad situation comes something good. But it was like, now I learned through having this coach for 2 years, who just, me and him were on in different area codes of what needed to happen. I realized, like, I will never coach like that. If I get to see that guy again, I mean, I don't know what I'll say to him, but it's not going to be good because it's like, dude, like, you lost that fact in your mind.
Yeah.
Like, I was just thinking, like, I'm 32 hours from home. I didn't see family for a year. Like, there's a lot of stressors as a young adult that I didn't realize I was going through.
Yeah.
And this guy never once, nobody there. It's like they're so in their own bubble of, like, living their, trying to make their ends meet and dealing with whatever they deal with personally and family-wise. It's like, dude, you totally needed to step back for a second, and I needed to do a better job to communicate. I definitely did from my stance. But at the same time, it's like, dude, one of those conversations that takes 10 minutes the whole way. Like, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I don't get the playbook. No, like, how are you doing as a person? Like, how's life?
Exactly.
Like, you are a long way from home with nobody here. Like, how are you?
That's a tough thing to do, though.
Yeah.
In any moment throughout that younger part of your life, like, you don't know how you're really supposed to talk to these people. You know, it's all new enough. Like, it's not until until you get like 10 years in the pros that you're like, actually, no, you're fucking up right now. Like, don't talk to them this way, you know, like, but you don't know that in high school, let alone university, in a lot of ways, right? Like, this might just be effective coaching, but you don't know until you're out of there.
Right.
Even though fundamentally you're like, this isn't right, dude. Like,
Yeah.
you're out to lunch.
And that might have been where he was so intellectual, he saw it working, and then, but he couldn't relay it in a way that our particular group of humans was understanding it.
Yeah.
And I think, and you're working like usually in like a division. He came from like a Fresno State, like a big Division I college,
Right.
and then you're in Division II, and athletes are usually in Division II. You have a lot of guys who are Division I quality athletes, but there's something hindering them from making that next step. And whether I think a lot of that is mental for these athletes at that stage or body size. But it's like, dude, yeah, you the X's and O's look great, but when we got on the field, it's just like how you're communicating it. Obviously, we need to go to the next route, go to the next learning set, the next learning abilities. Like,
Right.
how else can I teach this so maybe they get it?
Right.
And that was just like missed, so we just kept hammering home like you're this, you that, like, you know what anybody can say, but it's just like, dude, not one of that was positive. It was never like, hey, that was almost good. It was like, no, you guys just suck.
Yeah. How about you, JP? Anything that
Yeah,
stands
kind of
out?
same story at UBC. I guess they're kind of two different things, like what we deal with. UBC for sure, like a lot, like hypercritical, and a lot of that, like kind of just getting constantly torn down. I do remember my like two things very like one coach, he did have that like how are you and like you know in stretch lines and that sort of stuff. Like he'd chat and his name's Jerome Erdman. I'm not sure he's kind of bounced around. He was with Bishops McGill. I'm not sure where he is now exact. I think maybe Bishop still. But I really like. He did a great job in terms of like that interpersonal stuff and he was a DB coach and we're just really tight with him. So that goes a long way. Conversely though, I guess the other side of the coin too, as you're saying about dealing with young men, is like there's things that I didn't realize until after the fact because I was too young and immature. My last season, Coach Erdman, I think he went to McGill at that point, so we got a new position coach. And I don't know, I was 22 or 23 at that time, and I ended up getting put in a position battle with another kid, which I kind of thought like he, you know, he's a new guy coming in. He's like, I'm gonna shake up the depth chart. I don't care who was starting last year. So I kind of resented that, and then had a bad relationship, and I ended up losing that my starting spot to someone else. So I took that personally, and there's a lot of things that like I didn't realize until after the fact that he was pushing me and he saw something in me, and you know, whereas I just lacked the maturity to like see it that way, and I took it more as a personal affront, and so I didn't have a good mentality about it at that time. But there's things like, for instance, like any kind of time in training camp where you know, it'd be like first group up, and so we, like me and the other guy are looking at each other, who's it going to be, and like he'd pick the other guy, and I'd get so angry. And then when my rep would come up, like I'd go make a huge play. So I'm like, you know, and I didn't realize until after the fact, like he was like playing that mind game because it clearly got something out of me.
Yeah.
But I didn't see, I was just so like, fuck this guy. Like I remember specifically, like, you know, having 2 picks in a team period, and he tried to give me 5. And I just like walked past him. Like we almost got in a fight at one point in time.
I've experienced that with coaches too.
But that's the thing, and I think that idea kind of only works on defense because the being mad
Right.
really
Yeah.
works. It might work a little bit more on the line, but like
Yeah.
for receivers and stuff, when
Well,
someone got me mad, I was like, man, you're actually just fucking my shit up right now.
yeah, but I think I mean it could be in a different context. But I think I didn't realize until after the fact. Like I'd like to see. His name's Chris Hoople. He might still even be involved with UBC, but to like just to see him and be like, hey, I'm sorry. Like I was like out of line. Like I was like
Right.
really shitty towards you. Yeah, like there'd be times where I'd make a play and he's like, nice job, and I like literally turn my back on him. So and then like it's just a lack of maturity. So I have empathy, like.
But as a coach, I think you do need to identify that at some point, right? Like that wasn't working. Let me like fix that bridge so that
Right.
we can move forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, and then you're dealing. Yeah. Well, and you're looking at a depth chart. Like if DBs, for instance, you're looking at 5 of them, 3 deep. You're looking like years down the line. Like who are we prepping for next year and that sort of thing. Like so, there's a lot of moving pieces, and yeah, I don't know. It would be it would be really tough to do. Like I've certainly like couldn't say I would do a better job.
Yeah. And that, I guess that was the thing to both of your guys' points.
A bunch of kids looking for action. So what's doing out on the street? Is this the way we ought to use our boy power? Think about it. America's manpower begins with boy power. Let's not waste it. Be a volunteer worker with the Boy Scouts.
And we're back. So this is a great opportunity to ask Katie. Let's get Katie in the mix. Katie, what was your experience, if any, being coaching? I know you're part of softball. Do you have a coach there? You know, tell us about it.
Dingers.
As far as softball goes, I think I'm more of a manager.
Okay.
Make sure everyone's under control. you
Okay.
know, playing
Yeah.
by the rules.
Yeah.
No stealing bases.
Okay.
That's
So is this you calling out other
No,
teams here?
no.
Like,
It is a really interesting sport, I'll tell you that. It's not something that I did growing up. I started like 2 years ago.
'Kay.
Definitely beer league. But it's fun. Growing up, I never played team sports. I was just a ski racer turned snowboarder.
right.
Went to the dark side. But my coaches growing up were all awesome. As far as skiing's such like a mental sport, and
So what kind of skiing were you doing?
downhill ski racing. So slalom. At that age, it was like slalom GS, nothing super competitive.
Just speed, the
Yeah.
need for speed over
yeah,
here.
but I wasn't fast enough on my skis, so that was my downfall.
Right.
But I had a lot of friends go all the way to the national team. My brother was on the national team,
Word.
and yeah, that was cool always to watch. But I just was never fast enough to make it. But yeah, our coaches were always they definitely influenced us, good and bad.
Yeah.
Taught us
So
how to get
tell us a little
taught us
bit.
how to get into the bar underage.
Oh,
Oh,
now
no.
we're now we're talking.
And then
Vital
you would run
stuff.
into them at the bar underage. That was
Yeah.
always a problem.
I wish I
no.
could get into that scene, but that's nothing but problems for us over here.
Yes.
Yeah.
More
I
involved
feel
with-
like you're kind of separated on the skiing front, though. Like you're in a different world almost.
Yeah, I mean you are competing against yourself and your own speed and your own time, but it's such a mental thing going, watching a downhill racer go, like, I don't even know how fast they go.
Yeah, I had a friend
Over 100K maybe?
in grade 12. He did a dual tib fib or something like.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, I think he was.
What does that mean?
He broke both.
Oh,
Yeah.
bones.
hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in a wheelchair.
my
but yeah,
God.
We
his
should have a
skis-
blooper. We should have a
What is
blooper reel
going?
sometime.
No, he
Yeah.
well, people. I mean, people
Yeah.
died.
Totally.
Like in the- yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I remember in the
Winter,
90s.
Luge,
yeah,
yeah,
winter
Olympics.
sports,
It's
Fuck
gnarly.
that.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
Yeah, there's a couple races in Europe that are still like super gnarly. There's one in Kitzbühel, Austria, which is just like it's a downhill course and it's so steep that it's just sheer ice all the time. They just don't ever really keep snow in it because everyone just takes all the snow right off of it. And watching highlight reels on YouTube of Kitzbühel racers bail is like terrifying because they're
Yeah.
going so fast, and they have like maybe 4 sets of what would you call it?
Fencing?
Netting on
Yeah.
the sides, and some of them blow like right through there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their like suits
wild.
melt to them, and I've
Yeah, I'm sure.
experienced
Well,
it as
Yeah.
Sun Peaks used to host what's it called? Velocity Challenge. And that's where they're wearing like the rubber suits and they just tuck and away they go. Straight down the mountain. Down head walls.
It's like
if
me
you've been
going
out
down
there.
West Battle in my rollerblades.
Or a skateboarder attempting First Avenue.
You
down-
saw how fast I was going. You'd be, oh, that guy's burning rubber for sure. How about you, Richie? Richie Kwan. Do you play sports, bud?
Yeah.
Oh, God. This isn't setting up well.
Unfortunate thing that happened in grade 9 rugby. I tore my ACL and crushed the cartilage in my knee. And so now the only sport I can play is golf, which is unfortunate because I love playing like contact sports, but with my knee I can't do that. So if any of you guys know how to fix a knee cartilage,
Talking to
Need
the wrong
doctors
crowd.
out there.
bud. Yeah. Yeah.
You just have to, it's glucosamine, I think. If
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
right.
Start taking shark cartilage.
shark cartilage.
Well, isn't that
Oh,
what
really?
glucosamine is? It's like artificial shark cartilage or something. Anyways, it's supposed to
Yeah, fact check
boost
that one.
your.
There you go.
I'll make sure I
Glucosamine.
Google that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah.
uh,
Actually, like
yeah.
link me
Comment
to that.
Pratt's
I'd appreciate
Pharmacy
that.
again.
Yeah,
See if they got
Pratt's
something to
Pharmacy.
say about this.
Yeah. They're going to be an official sponsor one of these weeks.
Damn, bro.
Get on the glucose.
All right. Thank you. Thank
Glucosamine,
you.
not glucose. That'll slow you down.
How about you there, Gibran?
With me, well, I've gone all over the place. I've had really good coaches. Probably one of the things that was that changed me the most, like the most impactful, was I had an amazing coach for one of my junior years of football. He pushed me a lot, and he also took my brother under his wing. So my brother ended up being my coach as well. And then between both of them, they pushed me a lot to do to be really good at what I was doing. And I was, when you were talking about cardio and stuff, that in my team I wasn't the tallest or the biggest, so I always was really skinny, but the one thing that I had is that I could play defense and offense an entire game. And I think that was part of my brother and that coach just pushing me to, because they knew I just wanted to be in, so they pushed me enough and they let me do. I was a wide receiver and they let me play wide receiver, halfback, or even QB.
You're sure
had
they
a
just
couple.
weren't really desperate for players over here?
Sometimes they did, but but they just let me do it. Like, yeah, we didn't have a huge team that was gonna be playing.
I
but
didn't want
they
to
had-
hear
Yeah, but they let me have my own plays. I was fast, so
You
I
were a
was
fast little.
lucky.
You're a surprisingly fast little gentleman. I'll tell you. I've only seen you run a couple times. That maybe we should close down Victoria Street for a little race off
Get
one of
huddle
these.
up here.
Yeah.
I've actually done a couple of drunk races.
Is
out
that
in the
right?
street.
Drunk races.
Yeah.
That's where you really
Yeah.
excel.
At like 3 a.m. in the morning, and you
Yeah,
know, out
okay.
of the club, and you have the one friend like, no, man, I'm really fast. I'm like, dude, there's not a chance you can be.
Not a chance. I played both
Yeah.
ways, but you don't even fuck with me, man. Yeah.
So I did Google glucosamine, by the way. Just so you know, it is harvested from shells of shellfish, or it's made in a lab.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I
Confirmed.
think I'm gonna have to get myself onto that train.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And they use it for people use it for inflammation or breakdown and eventual loss of cartilage.
Thank you so much.
Pratt's Compounding Pharmacy.
Yeah.
All right.
Rats, you gotta hook that up, man. I got arthritis like a motherfucker around these parts, but we gotta get that going. I will say, one of the biggest impacts to me as a coach was Coach Gracie. He coached at JP. There's a million stories about Coach Gracie. I think if you know someone that was coached by him, you're going to hear a different story because he had so many of them, but they resonated with different people. But as a coach, the one thing I did want to bring back, which I can't because I've got arthritis, so I'm leaning on you guys over here, is locker punching and bleeding in the locker room. Because there's one thing that high school kids, they are influenced quite easily. You can turn them a certain way with a few different words. And Gracie was good at jacking up the energy, telling some crazy story, punching lockers, bleeding everywhere. And I've never seen a group of young gentlemen ready for action more than that fella right there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny though on that. Like I feel there's a couple choice stories that reappear. Like he cycled them through the cohorts. So
Absolutely, yeah.
There's the one of like the effigy of the quarterback, like Mike Wilcox, but he'd pulled that one prior.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's like a rivalry game against Westside, and he's like, so he goes out the night before and hangs up this effigy of star quarterback Mike Wilcox, and then it's all fired up. Like, did you see what the Westside kids did? But then you talk to guys who are there like 6 years later. It's like, oh, that happened too. The one I remember is he sent flowers from. This is when JP and Cam High had the big rivalries. So, like he had got the flowers, but then claimed Cam High sent them up. And you're like, could you believe that? Like these guys got flowers.
Send us flowers.
Yeah. But I mean, when you're young in that age, like you just like.
It's like those fucking punk ass bitches, man. Fuck those guys.
Yeah.
You buy into anything
Nerd.
at that point.
For sure. But I think like the big thing for me, like, and I think like the importance of high school football or any sport is like, yeah, he made you realize that like you didn't need to impose any sort of restrictions or like any limitations on yourself. That was kind of my big takeaway. And to contrast like the stories of going on and playing post-secondary, very different experience. But I think high school, it's like a big unifying thing, and like you believe anything's possible. And I think talking about yourself, like being a smaller player, but you're able to have success, right? And probably beforehand you didn't necessarily believe that was possible.
Yeah,
Then you
no.
leave like, oh, if I apply that mentality to anything I do in my life, I'll succeed at it.
No, exactly. And it's just the pushing yourself. That
Yeah.
someone that
Yeah.
made me push myself, because it wasn't anyone else. There was instances where I wanted to lap everyone, and that was my thing. I wanted to be just in shape for the season, and I would stop drinking, and I would
Yeah.
a higher level. But it was just I was ready for season, which is cool.
And I think the special thing about it, at least that I perceive, that makes you push yourself further, like is just like the violent nature of the game.
Yes.
Like when you're going out with your friends in high school, like you do feel like there's just a different feeling. I mean, I still get it, like when there's like a timeout and you go onto the field to talk to the players, like you can just it makes like the hairs on the back of your neck, like when you step out between the lines, like it's different out there. And
Yes.
I always find that cool even now as a coach. Like you remember that feeling of Friday night, like going out with your buddies to to get in a dust up with kids from across town. Like so I think that's like the special thing is you push yourself in that you don't want to let the guy next to you down. And I think that's just like such a great mentality to have in like whether it's succeeding at something or like compassion or empathy or
And I think that was like my main takeaway from Gracie that makes me really dig into coaching is that he was able to level the playing field between people. Like it didn't matter where you're coming from. Like it's I don't know how ridiculous of an adage it is, but it's like we're only as strong as the weakest player on the team. But it was like so true in that it only took one to just completely devastate everything that you have going on. And his ability to bring the weakest player, and that can be mentally, that can be physically, and any given day, and make leaders step down and say, hey man, like, offer that hand and say we need to all step up, we need to elevate. And that was my main takeaway, that despite all the hoorah of it all, that's what it ultimately came down to, was like actually making a difference for the people that were struggling on any given day.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's something that people who haven't played, they don't they can't get past like the macho side of football.
Yeah.
Whereas, anyone who hasn't played will never understand that like real like human side and compassionate side.
And that's one thing, like with football, there's like 10 other selfless acts going on the field when one guy has a football. On offense, or then on defense, you're doing like assignment sound football is going to win you games, but it's. And then if we talk about taking that into life, like if you start to learn that these selfless acts, like they will pay off eventually, or like you're going to do things that don't always have a return for you. And, it's not always about that. It's not always about that I need a reward at the end of anything. That's why it's like people I know only want to play hockey because everybody can score or stuff. And it's like,
not everyone scores there, for sure.
Yeah.
And then it's like I play in a position where you're completely selfless. And when I played offensive line, it's like you get very little
shit of the shit,
very little glamour, very little anything. Yeah. And then when something goes wrong, it's your fault. When something goes right, it's the quarterback did it right. Yeah, no one notices. So it's a very selfless act. And then it just, as soon as you find guys who can all buy in and want to do that, it's a really cool feeling. And then you hope you can take that out to when you see like that woman or the person with their tires flat or a senior citizen get across the street. It's like, I'm going to hop out and help them because that's just a selfless act. And I do that for anybody, whether I know them or not. Or
I think even you look at like what's like in the NFL, like in the wake of George Floyd, like that seems to be like a sport where it's like, why is this an issue? Like it's like, maybe it was the occasion of some outliers, but for the most part, like that's a sport where people accept everyone for who they are and what backgrounds they come from. And then obviously like, in American football, it's so disparate from what they come from, but there seems to be such an understanding of like, these are just people. Right?
You get into a locker room with guys, like when I played at Butte College, it is like the melting pot of every melting pot. You're at a junior college. You got guys that either have come back from huge colleges, guys that couldn't get into colleges, guys that just want to try to keep playing, guys who had already served in the Army, Canadians, guys from Sweden. You have people from absolutely everywhere, but you get these 70 guys inside this locker room with a group of individuals leading them as these coaches. It's a real, honestly, like it's a beautiful thing to see. Like when we go 12-0 and win a national title, it's just like, wow, we had a group of humans in charge that know what they're, at least they made it seem like they knew what they were doing every day. Mm-hmm. And then you had a group of individuals inside that locker room taking the coaching, helping each other out. Like I drove down in a Ford Ranger from Kamloops, BC, and then all of a sudden after practice in mid-October, I'm driving home a guy from Flint, Michigan, a guy from New York State, a guy from Sweden. I got guys from Modesto, California, laying down in the back of my truck, guys from Hawaii. Like it's just like where are we going and how did we get here?
How come the Odessa guys were laying in the back? Because that's just a regular thing.
I think he was too big to fit in the cab. So
I see.
The guy was about 450.
Because we did go the distance on it, but the guys that really got me all shaken up as like a 17-year-old, 150 pound, no, not even 150 pound, maybe 155. The guys coming back from the Army, we had a 37-year-old. He's like, had definitely done 6 rounds of heavy steroids. He is just like there, and he's firing. And I'm lining up against him because, I'm a wide receiver, but no, in university, no, you're going to play slot back for this one. We got to feel you out. And he's sitting there in front of me, just like, you can see the fucking blood boiling out of his eyes. And literally, like, he probably eats my weight in a day. That's just fucking terrifying. And I think you went in just probably weighing a couple more pounds than I did.
Yeah, a little bit.
And JP was, you were probably similar going in, but
I went the junior route. So when I went
right,
to was like, yeah. But I mean, I definitely.
You had to grow. See, I hadn't grown yet. I was still like what my high school shit was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why that was the great advice from a coach was stay and play 2 years of junior.
Right.
Because I graduated and I was like younger for my year, being born in the fall.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, you play a year, 2 seasons here, and then
Right.
go. But in 2 football seasons, I put on 35 pounds.
Yeah.
From,
No, it
from
matters.
17 to 19,
It matters.
and
Bit of
got to
perspective.
that 285. We're on a stat sheet, or no matter what, I'm 6'2", 285. Like
Yeah.
that's
And
a
some life
good
perspective
size.
as well, right? So, there's no way I could have made that leap right away, like physically or mentally at that.
Yeah, especially in the sport of football in Canada, the level you're playing at, you need to learn because you're not playing that high in high school, especially
Yeah.
from the interior.
Yeah.
You're not seeing maybe one guy on every second team that you're gonna compete with.
I guess that was my perspective change, is that I was like keen on education right away. So I was like, I got to get this ball rolling because I could be here for 8 years, knowing me. So I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna go get blown up by some 37-year-old Army
Yeah.
vet, and that's just the way it's gonna be. If I get discounted education, that's what it takes.
Perfect.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Maybe go on a commercial.
I think it's commercial time. Richie Kwan's really on top of this, waving down commercial time. Richie, do you have a timer? You don't. You have a timer conveniently placed on the other side of the computer. Louise, did you do that?
No.
Louise.
Grab my.
Richie Kwan, if you could go to a commercial and let us regroup here.
All right. Commercial break in 5, 4, 3, 2.
When did you start baking from scratch?
It's not scratch, Mom. It's new Pillsbury Plus.
A yellow cake this firm could only be from scratch.
It's Pillsbury Plus.
A cake this moist could only be from scratch. A cake this rich could only be from scratch.
It's Pillsbury Plus. The plus is pudding. Pudding right in the mix to add that moistness.
Rich flavor. New Pillsbury Plus, huh? Looks like scratch has met its match.
Yeah, so we're just talking.
And we're back.
We're back. We have some news. Not an advertisement, but it's something.
Yes. Do you mind?
Go
Hop
ahead,
in here.
jump on it.
So we have a close friend who's a friend and also a guy that's helped us shoot a bunch of events. His name is Kyle. And he was recently diagnosed with cancer. I'm sorry to take a right turn here, but we gotta make this push. He has a GoFundMe. I think Richie's throwing up a photo of him. He was diagnosed earlier in the year. He is. It's hard for me to even speak of this because he's been such a huge help to us and our company and all that. And we want international people to stick around in Canada because not only are they good for the economy, but they are good human beings, and we're all human beings. And I think in Canada we need to celebrate that shit. So if you have a couple bucks to spare to keep a young creative here in Kamloops and support him and his girlfriend, we would love that. You might know someone that knows him, and yes, we'd appreciate your support. So Katie's gonna throw the link in the mix here, and yeah, thank you for this little TV timeout. Kyle, you are a good jabroni, and we appreciate you. And you got to get better soon so you can get creating for us ASAP. I'm struggling over here, Kyle.
Yeah. Well, now coming back to.
Thank you guys for taking that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Katie.
I want to say probably football is one of those sports where it's so inclusive. You can have big guys, small guys. That's something that I think is the biggest change. That it doesn't matter what size, what shape, what you are. You have a place in a team. Like it's
100%.
easy. You don't have to be the most athletic. You don't have to be the fastest. There's a place for you.
That is
something that
definitely my favorite part of football.
That I appreciate so much. Like I played with guys that you never expect to have them on a sport until you play football. And then when you come into football, it's like not anyone can do that position or that position. Like it's so specific to all these different types of people that it's just like cool.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really important thing to me. Is it's like it's a democratic sport, and you look at like basketball or soccer, which definitely favor certain body
Yes.
type. Yeah, football is inclusive. I think that's a big thing for me, or like a flag that I've tried to fly at South Cam as well, is the cost side of it. And for myself, my experience coming from a single mother and not having a lot of money in the household, that was a sport that
Yes.
afford to play. Like I had the same one pair of cleats from grade 8 to 12, and that's kind of the only really real expense. The program provides equipment. Fees weren't much, and I know that's something that we've worked hard at South Cam, is to try and keep fees reasonable so that all kids can play. Like if they want
Yeah.
to, there's an
There's
opportunity.
an
Yeah, and
opportunity
even
for them.
it's kind of the way of the world now. Like with how things have become better and more competitive. But I know a lot of the other sports, even at our school, cost considerably more, like well over double. I can't remember what we were. I think we were at $425 last year. But that also, they got a jacket and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other side, and why it's important and why it matters, is that beyond all those life lessons and like the physical inclusiveness, like I think it is like that a financially inclusive sport, and might open, like for myself, like there's no way I would have gone to UBC without football.
Yeah.
And and when down in like in the States, that's probably even more
Definitely.
apparent, right? Like of guys who are like, that's their only opportunity for an education.
Right, and the big thing is like the emphasis that gets put on high school sports, all of them, and they're all sponsored by the high school. They got and that's the thing here, is lots of families and people are priced out of sports, especially like we look at hockey and trying to, after registration fees, your kid is growing every year, you need new skates, new pads, new everything. All of a sudden, half of Kamloops can't play.
Right.
Half of these cities can't go out and play. But yeah, and like we coach with Duncan Otheus too, who works with what Kamloops Sports Council
That's
and
right,
everybody,
yeah.
and he always says like cost shouldn't be an issue to anybody, because you can go through them, you can talk to the school. It's not like anybody's hunting you down for your money right away. Like we'll work with you, because we'd rather see you out here for 2 hours after school every day than going and getting in a whole bunch of shit from 3 to 5 p.m. before you got to be home for dinner. I'd rather you come here, and then in the off season you come work out and you go home for dinner, and then you're too tired, you go to bed. Like it's a huge thing, and to take that away from a kid who never even got the chance is terrible. Like we have the gear, even old cleats to wear.
That's right. Yeah.
Out. Like we'll give people our own pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Other kids, like we had a couple kids last year get cleats from other kids on the team. Just like, yeah, I'm not wearing them anymore. Yeah, to wear these. Yeah. It's awesome, and to see the work that has to be put in by the coaches. Like I remember seeing what you do to put together the newsletters and the fundraisers and that type of thing. And then when I was in high school selling cookies, our coaches was like not sleeping at night to stay up and try to make sure these fundraisers come together with a group of parents that are working for it too. The whole and then that's where I think we're really lacking in these Canadian cities in high school sports, is that sense of bringing the community together so that all these kids have a chance, instead of isolating like, oh no, I'm a hockey kid, or I'm a basketball kid, or I need this shooter shirt so I can be way better on the basketball court. It's like, no, just show up and let's play, and we'll go from there. Like we don't need to price these kids out of being able to play something that could ultimately change their entire life.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Me walking onto a football field in 8th grade with a guy who wanted to give his ultimate effort as a coach to a group of kids who wouldn't have had that opportunity completely changed my entire life.
Yeah, likewise.
It sent me in a totally different direction.
Yeah.
And NORCAM didn't even have football prior to me. It had folded the last 2 years. So to say, look at that, it's like, yeah, if there wasn't that group of people who were so dedicated to do that, and that's what people, I think, focus on that more, like instead of the getting hurt, the cardio, the this, that, it could give your kid a chance to get out of here and go experience things. If they come back or if they don't, then it's life-changing. It's life-changing.
That was part of the reason why we wanted to have this episode, not only to talk about like we're not going to have enough time to get into like the self-fulfilling thing, like the how it makes us feel to go out there, and the reward that we get, but it is the impact that happens on the other side. So if you don't have time and or the ability or the skill set to coach, what you can do and have a huge impact on kids is financially support sports out there. And soccer is another sport that financially you don't have to really put in a lot for. That may change once you get to higher levels because of the touring and whatnot, but football, in my experience, not only does it make you a super strong gentleman and appreciator of hard work, but it also gives you camaraderie that a lot of kids don't get, especially now in a digital age. So if you got some extra cash, South Kamloops Titans could use $1 or $2 around here. We're still operating with shoulder pads from when I was around, and probably when JP was around. So
we
and
need some big
also,
boosters.
so I tagged Duncan from Kamloops Sports Council, and he said, "Hell yeah."
Nice. Classic Dunk.
Everything. Hell yeah, brother.
Is there an easy way for people to donate to the school or to the teams directly, or like what do you guys usually do?
That's a good. Yeah.
We run fundraisers.
Yeah, we're
Like currently.
So a call to action, South Kamloops. Yeah, we'll put something
I
up.
mean, yeah, I can go to the school. That's been a big curveball with COVID. We were supposed to do. I guess it would be this weekend. As a matter of fact, Kibit got canceled. Everything's been canceled that we would normally fundraise. So that's been on my to-do list is what we can do in the interim.
Right.
I'd say when school is in session, people can come and drop off. And I'm pretty sure that the schools can also issue a tax receipt if that's.
But what we could do is a certain call to action right now is follow South Kamloops football. Is that what it is?
Facebook page.
On
That would be
Facebook,
great, yeah.
and
SKSS too. It's not if you're spelling it out.
Is it SKSS
People,
football?
yeah. Pretty positive.
no, I'm pretty sure it's South Cam on Facebook. South Cam
On Facebook.
football. Yeah, that one.
Instagram.
Instagram.
Sorry.
It's been a minute. But if you follow us there, what we can do is post a link to be able to.
Yeah, because I think
donate.
I'm trying to get something together in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that would be great.
And that's, I think, the other big thing now is assuming a lot of households will be negatively impacted by
Absolutely.
COVID.
Yeah.
So especially coming into the season, hopefully there's a season.
Yeah.
Still, we don't know
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
But not wanting kids to be priced out because their parents' business got closed or whatever.
And even past that, to our conversation, a lot of the kids that are going to be affected are the kids that are coming from lower income households. So if you're not in a lower income household and you have a couple dollars to spare, those dollars will go super far in our ability to bring those other kids that are in less fortunate positions.
100%.
So thank you, Katie, for making that call to action. South Kamloops football, SKSS football on Instagram.
I don't seem like a complete moron.
Jacob, you're on it. We appreciate you. I think it's a great time to wrap up, and thank you guys for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Any last thoughts on coaching, the summer? Everything you got
so
going?
much is up in the air.
Yeah.
So who knows? We're just hoping. I'm hoping that we get the word that everyone's going to get to play. But who knows? They're saying just the outlook. They think NFL go forward, but they don't think college football. The look on collegiate sports is low, so that's not going to reflect well in high school or public school sports. So.
But then
But
things
longer term, how are we feeling? Coaching,
Well, catch us in
getting into
BC
coaching.
Place, winning championships.
Come on. Yeah, we'll see you in the dome this December. No, I think I don't know. If people are watching this and either they're into it or I don't know. Like the Friday nights have been fun. I'm
Definitely.
most excited for the sound upgrade. Actually, a new turf.
Yes, both.
Turf would
Yeah,
be great for
be
the
awesome.
kids, but actually having the sound has left a little to be desired. Like
Yes.
we've had I don't know, the entrance was pretty on point with Jan.
Yeah.
We had
Right.
the smoke machine and the lights and that. And
Shout out to Jan for making all that shit happen, but the sound was
sound was
in need of
like
improvement.
it kind of things feel like we have the smoke machine and the big gnarly entrance and a cool run out song, and then you can't hear it.
Yeah.
We got Old JJ as our.
JJ is the announcer.
You're doing a great job.
Shout out to JJ.
Good on a microphone.
JJ would just play my goddamn playlist already.
Just play the hits,
It's
JJ.
good.
Yeah, I think it's just like don't stop believing.
No, I guess sorry, just the last thing off of what JP's saying. Yeah, follow the social medias and just keep your eyes open for advertisements. And come fall, come to Hillside Stadium. It's I played football in a lot of the West, like Canada and the U.S. and that stadium is like parallel to a lot.
It is.
It's cool.
It is
Yeah.
rival.
We're
it
lucky
is-
for
there's
that.
very few stadiums that the levels that we play at that rival that one. It's to come and watch on a Friday night when the sun's setting out
Oh,
here
yeah.
and the lights are coming on. It's like you just get shivers just thinking about it.
Well,
It's a beautiful spot. Come out, and watch football, and build that community that Kamloops. I just think we're missing out on.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then while you're there, you can check out these hunks as well on the sideline,
Yeah.
yelling and not
Exactly.
abusing children. Any last words, Serge?
No, I appreciate what you guys do on the coaching side. I've had a lot of fun. I love football, so it's been nice being close to what you guys do. Even shooting the games, that was a lot of fun, and
Yeah,
being
well,
around you guys.
No, you guys.
was-
Well, we did the live stream. That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
great. Yeah. No, you guys have definitely done a lot as well. Jan and you guys, just to make it fun for people to go and look professional and.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's something that I appreciate you guys from doing it, and
And if you're into any of this and you also enjoy hot sauce, after this outro today, we're going to play a little special surprise we gave our kids. They were expecting to go on like an hour-long run, and we surprised them with a little detour. We had the Mexican here whip up some tacos for the kids. And then JP went into his classic JP hot sauce tradition, and it's some good times. So that's going to roll after the outro. Richie Kwan, you got something for us?
Yeah, I got a question for you too. So, when you guys play, do you guys have a pre-game ritual? Any routines that you do before a game to like get you into the zone?
For the kids, like us as coaches.
No,
or?
no. When you have a personal game, and also, do you bring in a certain ritual with your kids as well?
Well, Jacob, you can go first. I mean,
Yeah, I used to be a little bit. I tried to stick to I had the same clothes, the game day clothes, all the time.
So you're bringing the
Same-
funk.
I
Is that
wore
what
the
you're saying?
same.
Classic.
I did my
Miami
damn
funk
laundry, all
over
right.
here.
I had the same shirt that I wore for game days from all of college, like that type of thing. But then I was religious in like the stretching, how I did it, where I did it, who stretched me, who stretched around me, what I was listening to.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I don't know. I think I should have been a little bit more relaxed. I might have played better a few times, but you get pretty wound up, dude. It's a big. When you walk out and the cannons fire and the national anthem plays, it's
That's
showtime.
huge.
Like that's it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, I don't know. I usually give some rah-rah speech, which is funny.
JP's good for that. I appreciate
is.
him.
Well, it's just I guess like anything you get older, like, like at Hugh Boyd, for instance, it's like I'd almost have to like rehearse it when I was first getting out. And now, it's like we're just like BSing. I don't think about it at all. And probably that Gracieism where I'm recycling things once I know like enough kids have gone through that they won't hear the same story. But,
Try to avoid the cliche stuff now because with the social media and the video, YouTube, everything, you hear the cliche stuff so
Yeah.
much. It's like it carries no meaning anymore.
yeah. Well, I think just like as long as, like, if you're saying something sincere,
Yeah.
and that's really, I think,
Yeah.
like the success, or the key to success as a high school coach. Like Tim would have been great to have him on because he's someone I look up to in that regard. But like,
You would have been here today.
right? Yeah. That, someone who just speaks from his heart, and the kids realize that, and that resonate. Like when they know that you're in it as much as they are, then it's like anything's possible. And I think that's like, to get away from a cliche, like just like
that
say,
own
like,
experience. Yeah.
yeah, like whatever. If you say something that like you genuinely feel about the importance of that game or that moment or a certain player, like, I think you'll avoid the cliche, and then the kids are like so receptive to that.
I'm all about the one-liners. That's what I bring into the mix. I'm the one-liner hit central. I just piggyback off of JP shit. You hear Jacob laughing over here because it's actually true. I lean on those one-liners, and am I wrong? Like they
Hey,
get
you're
the
not 100%
reaction that we
wrong.
need over here sometimes. So with that, rewind. I appreciate the question, Richie. Thank you for that. Thank you guys for being on. Appreciate you both for what you do, in your day-to-day. Shout out to the restaurant on the river over here.
Oh, yeah. Sandbar Grill.
Sandbar Grill.
Locally owned and operated. We put on the South Kamloops football banquet there and had a great night. Yeah. Hell of a job. Yeah.
I wanted to get that in. We got to make sure.
Thank you.
Well, I live on actually, we both live on the North Shore.
Yeah. Yeah. Gourmet burgers. I'll put our burgers up against anybody in this town.
So there you go.
On the patio, on the river.
Got the tagging over here. So.
Last patio.
You know where to go
on the river.
You know where to go.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you for being on. Appreciate what you guys are doing. If anyone out there has questions, if they want to get involved in kids sport in any level, we happen to know a few people, and I think now more than ever, kids need to get the fuck out the house and off their computers and get exercising. I know I got to do that as well. So yeah, hit us up if you need that. Again, for those of you watching after the live stream, Monty Creek, all you got to do, tag a friend or 2 or 3 or 15. Every tag is worth an entry. And or just, comment something real and let us know what kind of kid or coach positively affected your life. You'll be in. I might even give you 5 entries for that one. So we'll be making that draw on Tuesday of next week. Stay tuned for the Hot Wing Challenge. And, Richie, are you ready for the outro?
Hot Wing Challenge.
This is our true test for the evening. The 5 toughest dudes on this team. Need to know who those 5 toughest dudes are. Who are the 5 toughest guys on this team? So we're gonna find out a little bit of mental toughness tonight. So apparently we got the 5 toughest guys up here. This is spicy. So put it up there, Sam. I'm gonna come up with you guys. We're gonna get into this. So we got 3 rounds here, boys. We're going mild, medium, and then we're ending with a ghost pepper sauce. So we're just gonna see who gets rattled here.
Round 1. Ha!
Okay, on the hatch here. 3, 2, 1, here we go. You're hanging in there, Mike. So that's round 1. Leon, how we feeling down there? You're not even phased. This is easy stuff.
Round 2.
Little wing cheer here. Okay, down the hatch. It's not about as fast as you can, though. Enjoy it, Mike. Just dive into it.
No wonder Mike goes head to head with kids and doesn't get phased by it. He's got no feeling about his neck. What? Hey, no solo standing. Yeah, hey, no chirping.
We got a couple extra. This one comes a little late. Hey, Mike.
It's like a minute later. You're just like,
Yeah. So that's why you gotta keep your guard up, right? Don't let that guard down. So, Mike, what I gotta know? I gotta know something from you. Who's the worst trash talker you faced? What was that chirp?
what?
The worst trash talker in the league that we play. Don't touch your eyes.
I don't know. On our team, Sheldon Gerlup. My head's like, I'm like buzzing right now. The boys are buzzing right now.
So you're getting into it?
Yeah, like my head's feeling good at this point.
Tonight's gonna suck.
Tonight's gonna suck.
It's going to keep you regular. So this last one's called Dave's Temporary Insanity Sauce. It's ghost pepper sauce. So remember, fellas, right? That's okay, Mike. We're getting you cultured here. That's what today's all about.
Round 3. Oh, this bit's hot.
Okay. 2018 season, fellas. Let's get a wing cheer. Let's get a wing cheer in here. Get a wing cheer. Wing cheer, fellas. Wing cheer. Leon. Okay. Good luck, fellas. Leon, you got it down the hatch? Stay in the zone. He was flexing hard. I think you got to redeem yourself after you got dusted a couple of times there. Leon, how you feeling?
Terrible.
Harrison, how about you, man? You hanging in there? Shout out to Harrison, right? Again, big thank you, Jesse. Luis, big thank you, man. You're the man.